You got it. All right, there we go. Welcome everybody. Dealmaker, this is a new call that we're doing for everybody. Jim has agreed to be on most of these calls. A lot of the Dealmaker groups have started around the country, and we're really trying to give this as an extra benefit to all the Dealmaker groups around the country, and just the people that want to be a part of this community. I feel like it's a great community that's been built by our leader, Jim Ingersoll, and he's agreed to be on most of these calls as much as he possibly can. But where some of the leaders around the country are going to start leading some of these groups as well. So if Jim can't be on all of them, that's fine. We got awesome people like Eric and Pam and other people that lead other groups as well. So I'm excited about that. So for me, we just got done with this last meeting here, Dealmaker in Gary, and it was an amazing meeting. We had about 120 people show up. It was really good. Just an amazing group of people. Charity auction went super well. The people, like, I'm not sure if a lot of deals happened this time, but just a lot of good connections and a lot of good people that just really connected well. And it was just a really, really good meeting. And appreciate everybody for coming. If you guys are interested in those videos, you guys can get those. But upcoming, we've got this event. If you haven't signed up yet, it's coming right up around the corner here. Dealmaker Orlando. It's a private lending event. So whether you're a private lender or a borrower, right, Jim? It's for either one. If you want to be a better borrower, if you want to be a better lender, this is going to be a great, amazing event for you. I won't be able to be there. This is going to be at Adam's wedding, and I'll be up there for Adam's wedding. And then the day after this is actually Augie's event in Orlando, his gala. I will be down there for that. Do want to invite you guys to this cruise too, Investor Addicts Cruise. I think me and Jim are going to both be there for that. I think it's going to be a very big cruise event for the Investor Network. So you guys are going to want to sign up for this. I'm not even sure if those prices are still the same. I probably need to get those updated from those. I think
Tanya's on, so it's good to see you, Tanya.
Yes. If these prices are not the same, please get in the chat and let us know. And then I want to make sure everybody knows about the dates for Dealmaker. Is this the right dates, Jim?
I think so.
March 18th through 21. Get those tickets. I don't know if Jim's going to get a bigger venue, but I got a feeling he's going to need one.
It's a much bigger venue.
Okay.
We can fit 500 people.
Okay, good. Yeah. So he's ready for everybody, but get those tickets. And then next month, just real quick here, next month, we're going to do Eric Vogel is actually going to be speaking for us. He's one of the other guys that runs one of these groups. And I'm excited to hear him. He's going to talk about real estate and mindset. And he's got a bunch of students that he works with, and he's going to talk about that for next month. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully you guys are too. And with that, I'm just going to let Jim and Pam have the floor and go from there.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. We've got Dealmaker in 9 cities, and we got the 10th one coming online this week, potentially, Tom, which is it's the first Latino group. So I'm really excited about that.
That's
I love
wonderful.
Latinos are investing, and it's a Latino group in Atlanta who's coming on next, it looks like. So Tom, you've really been leading a lot of this too, because you're helping us with some really amazing benefits that are coming up. We're really close to locking some pretty exciting things in for all the members nationwide. It's going to be pretty cool. And that really leads me into my discussion with Pam, because expanding Dealmaker nationwide was really Pam's idea. Right after Dealmaker, Cheryl and I went to lunch. We saw Pam and stuff. And she's like, what do you think about doing a Dealmaker in Raleigh? And I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? But it was a pretty cool idea. I said to my wife, I'm like, Cheryl, what do you think? She's like, she says, I think I like Pam, so let's do it. Just kidding. But yeah, so here we are. I mean, we're going into our 10th city now, Pam, and you've got Raleigh-Durham. You're ready to restart here pretty soon, I think.
That's right.
And some of the cities are really doing really well, like Central Texas, just outside of Austin, is growing really fast. So is Atlanta. Tom, you and I and Eric will be in Richmond together next week. So that's going to be fun. And, I'm looking forward to coming to Gary, maybe Tom, before your next fall event. which I feel bad I missed because of my shoulder. I was just saying, I just walked in from physical therapy to get on Zoom a minute ago. I'm doing quite a bit better. But make sure you say hello in the chat box. Tell us where you're at, what you do. Susan, you're in beautiful Noonan, Georgia, so you know that Atlanta group. I'm excited to have Eric Vogel on next month. Eric's an awesome guy. But Pam, why don't you take it away and teach us some things about manufactured housing?
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me on, and I'm honored to be on the inaugural nationwide deal maker. So thank you. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here in just a second to make sure that I can get up and running with what we're going to talk about. And out of curiosity, as I'm doing this, I would love to sort of see with a raise of hands on the participant, how many folks on this call have actually dealt with manufactured homes in some way, shape, or fashion?
Pam, can you define manufactured housing?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Manufactured housing is typically a single wide, double wide, or a triple wide. And what makes manufactured homes a little bit different is they're actually made within an actual plant where you have no issues with the weather. You normally have supply, demand, and efficiency for what it takes to build them. And then they are literally moved down the road with wheels and axles and set up on site. Depending on where you set up and how you set up, you may or may not remove the wheels and axles. The hitches sometimes get removed as well.
We're talking like wobbly wheels here, right? Lonnie wheels.
Wobbly boxes is what some folks call them. I actually have a website.
Let's do a raise of hands. That's a great idea. So I'll raise my hand.
Sure, I would just be curious to see who has and any experience with these. I saw Tanya. Can't see everyone on my list here with what I'm looking at, but I know there's a couple of you in here. So from my perspective, I think that manufactured homes are a undervalued, underutilized resource. I'm actually in Georgia this week where we're setting up some modular homes, which is a different conversation. But it's surprising to me to see the number of manufactured homes as well as the number of parks there. So as we go through this, I'm going to give you a little bit of my history and how I got started in manufactured homes, and then give you insights as to ways to invest within them. So clicking through here. So I always say this, no matter who I'm speaking with, that your network really has everything that you need for success, whether you're just starting out or you're tapping into mentorship with fabulous folks like Jim and Tom and the beautiful network of folks within Dealmaker. I will tell you that in Dealmaker directly, I have lenders, I have partners, I have folks that I have JV'd with. I've bought a few properties within folks from Dealmaker. So literally everything you need is within your network. And Jim, Tom, Eric, on this page we see Allie as well, a few other folks, David Richter. This is from the Investor Cruise, Investor Addicts Cruise a couple years ago. We truly have everything we need at our fingertips, and you never know what the connection you make today is going to lead to for tomorrow. I'm going to point out this gentleman right here with the long beard, and horribly, I know his name is William, but I don't know his last name. He really helped change my perspective personally on an airplane ride from San Diego to Dallas, where he helped me understand that debt is not bad as long as you cash flow. And we spent about 4 hours on a flight with him just repeating that debt is not bad if you can cash flow. And I came off of that flight and looked up my Real Estate Investors Association in Raleigh-Durham and have not looked back, thanks to his insights and his pounding in my head. Debt is not bad if you cash flow. So, but a reminder that you really do have who and what you need to succeed, because your network is your net worth, as many folks on this call will say. So who am I? I'm Pam Fisher. I have a nursing degree and 3 degrees in total that don't apply directly today, but I think that my journey and my foundation comes back to add up to everything about how the dots connect over time. So I call myself a serial entrepreneur and a perpetual learner. I love negotiating contracts and getting creative deals. I do subject twos. I have mobile home parks. I'm a manufactured home dealer and do remodeling for retail sale and for buying and holding here. So got a little bit of this, a little bit of that in my background. And I believe that our mindset truly is everything when we look at how we're moving forward with real estate, with anything we do. I'm a believer that if you tell yourself you can't, then you probably can't. But if you keep saying, I'm going to figure this out, and you align yourself with good people that can support you to get there, you'll hear me frequently say finding solutions, creating opportunities, and we make it happen. But I also believe in having fun along the way, because without question, life is too short. And if we don't enjoy what we're doing every day, then why are we doing it? We all have to find a way to survive financially, but we can also make it fun while we're going through it. I love quotes, and here's one that I think is really pertinent to who I am and what I represent. If you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. And I see people daily either finding a way or finding an excuse. So by showing up on these type of calls, I say that you're the person that's finding a way because you really want to make something happen. And that's the start to making the strides forward. So what is a manufactured home is the first thing we're going to talk about. Jim asked that a few minutes ago. And I think that when many people hear the word manufactured home, you either have something along these lines of where you've got the jerry-rigged and somewhat redneck haven of sorts. We have a history of seeing wobbly aluminum boxes, or wobbly boxes as we'll so often call them. But manufactured homes have come a long, long way. One fact that I think is interesting is manufactured homes are federally supported through the Housing Urban Development, or HUD. And if you have a new manufactured home delivered to your home or your site, and there are issues, you work with the state and the federal authorities to be able to manage that to the point that you can shut down plants if it's not managed properly and effectively. So typically, because of the quality inspections that happen within manufactured homes, especially the new ones, you'll get quick responses, and they are audited and do quality checks within those manufacturing plants frequently. So the homes that are being delivered today are nothing like what we thought of prior to the 76 time period before HUD was out there. So what exactly is a manufactured home? So it is factory built and on an assembly line. And here are two examples on my screen of actual manufactured homes in the plants. I've done several plant tours over the years and would highly advise that if you ever have that opportunity, it's fascinating to see them literally go down the assembly line. Whenever they start, they put the flooring onto steel beams, they flip it over, and they go ahead and pre-place electrical and plumbing locations on the base of the model. They flip it back over, put wheels and axles on, and literally roll down the assembly line. Here's an example in this photo where you see folks with a pulley system up here, literally moving the walls that are pre-built and placing them inside of the box that's going down the line. It's a floor frame that the subfloor is added, and then you eventually put insulation and what they call an underbelly, which is a massive tarp looking but thicker substance. And then as it goes on down the line, you get your walls, you get your plumbing, you get your painting, white, your window siding. And then by the time it's finished, you've got your roof on, and it's going to literally roll on out of the factory with HUD stamps, HUD labels, and a serial number, which is similar to a VIN that we have within motor vehicles. There's single wides, double wides, and triple wides that can be set up as manufactured homes. Typically, a single wide is one contained box, and this example is a single wide. You've got your siding on all four sides and your roof, and it rolls down to your site. It's about 14 is your common width, and your length can go from 40 on up to 90 feet long. When it's delivered on site, it's a contained unit. And once you set it up with HVAC, with electric, and with plumbing, you're good to go. Your requirements for the way you set it up, as well as your requirements for permanent versus temporary skirting, is dependent on county and state rules. A double wide is literally two components that are put together. And in this particular case, you see this is one double wide unit. The plastic represents the part that comes together, and it's called a marriage wall. So you've got two single units going down the road. They come together on site. They place the marriage wall together. Again, your setup is dependent on what you're doing with it and your county, your state regulations. And then you get your first inspection on site, which is a marriage wall and a setup inspection. Once you've got it set up on the blocks, you then will go through and do your trim out. Trim out means they're going to put the siding on the two exposed sides that went down the road. And then inside we'll look at trim and what that looks like. And then you can also manage a triple wide, and a triple wide is literally 3 boxes put together with the roof pitch in the middle one and coming together there. So again, we're talking single wide, double wides, and triple wides. Usually each component is around 14 feet. And then they can be as short as 40 and up to 90 feet. So your square footage is dependent upon all those pieces and components put together to determine how large you have your home.
Hey, Pam,
Yes.
what's the most like used one out of those? Would you say it's just a normal double wide is probably the most prevalent?
That's a wide open question because it depends on where you are and what your intention is. In a, say, a manufactured home park, you're going to have more single wides, right? For single family homes, in order to get a loan on those, oftentimes you're looking at a double wide. So it depends on the intention. Your price differences are significant enough that where you're placing it and the intention of what you're doing with the home will determine what you can do with a single or double wide. Obviously, triple wide is just a larger component that you can work with. So the answer is it depends on the use and where it's being located. Sometimes your land will determine if it's a single wide or a double wide, as far as how much acreage you have and how much you can actually put on there. I'm assuming you're looking at the chat, Tom. I wasn't looking at that. So I'm going to pull that over to the side
No,
as
I
a back.
wasn't, sorry. I was not even
Oh.
looking at that. I'm so sorry. What is the square footage then, like for a normal double wide with just 2 pieces? Because I've seen also
Sure.
like 4 pieces and 6 pieces where they're just like,
Absolutely. And some of those may be modulars you're talking about when you get into the larger. So if we do just say a 14-foot wide by a 52, you literally take those two and say 14 times 52, and that's 728 square feet, right? If I double that and say, if I have two 14-foot wides, that's 28, and then multiply that by 52, then that becomes a 1,456 square feet. So when you go to any manufacturer or me as a dealer, the size that you're ordering is truly dependent on how much you want to spend and what you can actually work with on your lot. Some lots restrict, right? And setbacks these days have come a long way. What I could have done 10 years ago is sometimes not possible because in some areas you're required to have 15-foot setbacks on the front and the back, and then so much on the side. So if you have a smaller lot, you've got to work with the components of your lot size, your setbacks, and then whatever your requirements are for your county or your city that you're in.
yeah, just like new construction. I get it.
That's right, just like new construction. So good questions, Tom. Thank you. All right. So what are ways you can invest in manufactured homes? So I'll tell you that I'm in Raleigh-Durham area. And even still today, when I start talking about manufactured home, I see sort of a glaze come over a lot of people's eyes because manufactured homes still have what I call the redheaded stepchild concept within the world of real estate investing. But what I like about it is I know that there can be infinite returns on it because it still is an under-tapped resource in many areas. So you can buy an existing home with land that's already set up. That can be a perfectly ready to go home, or it can be something that's been used as a tenant home for a while and it's run down a bit. So existing, you can find it ready to move in and beautiful, or you can find something that you can remodel and add value to it. You can buy a home in a park with a rented lot. Previously, that would be called a Lonnie deal. I put Lonnie deals above, but that's really right here. And when you read Lonnie Sprague's book, he talks about buying homes for as inexpensive as $200 on up to $2,000, and then owner financing that home for anywhere from 5 to 15 times the amount you purchased it. I read his book again recently and I giggled. I was like, I'd love to find homes at those prices again these days. They're a little bit more challenging to find at those rates, but you can still find good deals on there. You can buy a home that's in a park with a rented lot. And the one thing I will say there is that you do need to do enough research to understand what the manufactured home park owner allows. If it's a mom and pop shop, a lot of times they're not quite as savvy with saying, I can only do a percentage of people that are investing versus my tenants that own the homes, or if I own the actual park, I may want to own the homes and the land there. You can buy a home on a rented lot. So let's say that Jim or Tom has land somewhere, and this is an Andy Teasley special in many ways, where I can buy the home and then I have the rent on the lot that's not in a park forever and a day. And when you hear Andy Teasley speak, he'll oftentimes say that's the only way to do mobile homes, where you forever own the land and charge the land rent there. You can purchase land and place a home. That home can be new or used. In most areas, you cannot move a home that's older than 1976, because that is the golden year where the HUD came through and did a lot of requirements at that point that had better insulation, better quality build. And you have to be very careful that actual date. I recently had somebody reach out to me for a single wide, and they had said it was a 1977 home, which we were going to work with. But when I dug into the title, the home itself was a 1974, and the title was issued in 1977. So fast forward, they've got to tear that home down. We can't use it and transport it to be set up as a home anymore. So those dates become really important in knowing your rules and regulations for county and or state and or municipality if you're in a city. You can purchase a home, move that home to land or rented lots. And again, I could be buying someone's home where they bought the land, they're going to build a home and move that to a rented lot or a mobile home park. And then you can work with parks and communities, which is some of what I do. And you can also work with people like me as a lender if you wanted to set up and figure out ways that you don't have to do the work, but you can work through the process. Why would you look at manufactured homes? They're still considered a low entry point. In Raleigh-Durham, there are several investors that I know who are doing flips that have gone from doing stick-built homes to manufactured homes because of the fact our home prices have gone up so drastically in Raleigh-Durham that it becomes a limiting ability for folks to be able to actually get in and do a stick-built home at this point. Your starting values are anywhere from $250,000 on up in Raleigh-Durham now, going into the $1 million range in some areas. So it just becomes a barrier to getting to the point of finding homes to remodel in Raleigh-Durham area. Oftentimes you can have great returns on these, and we'll look at some examples in a minute. A lot of people will still say it's your affordable option in homes. A lot of folks are saying that we have a crisis getting ready to happen because of rents going up. And if you can find these homes at the right price, your returns can be infinite and beyond. One thing I don't have in here that I'll say is oftentimes when you are getting a stick-built home, you're looking at a 15 to a 30-year mortgage, and your payoff time is quite intense versus I have some homes that I buy as manufactured homes, and we can have those paid off within 8 months of rent receiving. And then after that, it's all cash flow. So when you look at that comparison, there is no comparison, in my opinion, for some of these. You can buy them new or used, you can do remodel, and then your strategy can be to sell, own, or finance, or rent. So I'm going to glance over here at the chat. I do see a couple questions. Dana's asking, can they be placed on a basement or a crawl? So you can place them on a basement. That takes a little bit more prep work than what we're going to talk about here, but that is an option. Crawl space, they normally have to have at least a 4 cinder block high in North Carolina and in Georgia from what I'm seeing. But yes, they do have a small crawl space. You want as much flat land as you can have whenever you're placing these. So I see Giovanna, I'd love to connect as well. So that's great. So, and I'll keep looking to see if there's any other questions as we go through our next pieces. So here's a couple case scenarios of what we've done. I bought this home, which was not so pretty when we bought it. It was on a 1.3 acre lot, and I bought it for $13,000 from auction.com back in the day. It needed a lot of work, a little bit more than what we anticipated. But even with the amount of work that we put into this, when we put all new siding, all new windows, we replaced floors, we still walked away with a $35,000 profit. In today's standards, that may not be a phenomenal profit, but considering my starting point was 13,000, I was pretty good with that. I did consider holding on to this one and renting it. But for the location and what we had gone through with this home, I was just kind of ready to be done. So that was one of my first I actually remodeled to flip. 35,000 would have been a bit more, but we ran into some water issues we didn't expect on this one. Not an issue, made that one work and kept going. Here's one that we do where I bought an existing manufactured home on land. If you hear me speak about manufactured homes and or creative financing deals, oftentimes I'll say take a ride through the country because these are the gold mines sitting out in the country area. So this particular home was sitting on 3 acres. When we walked in, they still had the Christmas tree up, if you can see here, and it was packed with stuff. This was a probate house. Grandma had passed away about 5 years ago, and they had not done anything with the house. In the end, they were overwhelmed, had some repairs, and they literally walked away. So I brought in a private investor on this one that I wrapped their loan with me. And then we ended up selling this without doing anything to this house. Gonna say that again. I bought it for 18 and I sold it for 130,000 without doing anything to this house. This is my creative deal structure that I like to talk about as well for folks. So with this $130,000 sale, we got $20,000 as a down payment, and we're essentially getting $1,182 for 15 years. It's a great deal for my side. And if you look at what this family did to it, they were remodelers themselves. They removed this wall right here and made it into an open concept, and it is gorgeous now. They're extremely happy. This same family, I've sold another double wide to on 7 acres in a different location. So this is where I say we find solutions. In this case, the family had grandma passed away. They didn't have the money to fix up. They didn't know what to do. They had met with the real estate agent and they said, fix it up and then call me back. So we went in, purchased this for cash, and then sold this without doing anything to this house. And still are making beautiful returns on this particular home. So this one is an existing one with land that we bought. Needed work. We chose not to do the work, but we did choose to owner finance this one. Here's an example of a home in a park. And in this case, when I say park, I'm talking about a manufactured home community and or a park. This would be known as a Lonnie deal if you've read any of the books by Lonnie Scruggs. And the purchase price on these days can be as low as $200, which is rare to find. I have bought them for as low as $200 and go up to 70 plus, depending on your location. Your lot rent is also going to be defined by your location. It can be as low as $100 on up to $2,000 if you're in places like California. And then what you do with this home is completely up to you. You can own or finance it. You can work it as a lease option. You can rent it. The beauty of doing a home in a park is a low entry point. So when I have folks come to me and say, Pam, how do I get started in manufactured homes? And I don't have a lot of money. I will say, go find a park and ride through, start talking to folks, look for the vacant homes, and then figure out how to get in touch with that person. Is it an abandoned home? Is it somebody that had to move quickly? Did someone pass away? Or is it a tired owner that doesn't want to deal with the repairs anymore? Finding a home for as low as $200 is not easy these days, but they are out there. We've bought a couple, quote unquote, for free when we've done them. So, and then I moved them to my park. I'm going to pause again. I've got a couple questions over here. So do you ever place on a slab an anchor rather than blocks? I have personally never placed it on a slab. I don't know that that's an option in North Carolina because I've never been asked that we do place them on blocks all the time. The 881 was first or was 1182? Jonathan, I don't know what that question is. I'm sorry. I think you may have been going back up here to my creative financing one. where the 881 is what I gave to my underlying lender, who gave me 30,000 up front on that one, because we needed to pocket some money on this one. And then the 1182 is what my folks are paying every month after that. I think that's answering your question. I didn't go into a lot of details on that creative financing, but you obviously glanced at that one quicker than I was explaining it there. Was just giving it an example. We are now placing quite a few new homes on land, and I've got a couple of examples here, and I'm going to dig into that with you a little bit more, where we either buy land and develop it, splitting it into multiple lots, or there may have been a previous home on the lot, or there's enough land to put one home on the lot. This example I'm getting ready to show you on the side here is one where we took a home lot that previously there was a double wide, and they had been foreclosed on, so the double wide was pulled out. So it was nice because we had the flat land. In theory, we had infrastructure in place, and we just kind of kept going there. What I will say is you cannot make assumptions with manufactured homes, no matter where you are. Some areas, even though there may have been an existing double wide or single wide, and it was moved out, that location may or may not allow you to put another manufactured home on site. There's one municipality that we deal with that if there was a manufactured home on site and it's pulled out, you cannot replace it with a manufactured home. So please, please, please double check with your county, your city, your zoning, your regulations. Some areas, they don't want manufactured homes anymore. Can't change that necessarily on an easy flip, but we can work through that over time. Your infrastructure is no different than you would have for a stick-built home. You got to deal with your electric, your water, whether that's a well, county or city access, and then sewer, whether that's septic or county or city sewer. You're going to set the home, and then depending on your strategy, you will sell it, rent it, or refinance it. So again, zoning clarified, please don't assume. Sometimes you'll see something referred to as a Class A home is allowed, and a Class A is essentially a double or a triple wide that was built after July the 13th of 1994. That's the designation that has been identified. You always want to clarify and preferably get it in writing if you can. And then, like we talked about in the very beginning here, clarify your setbacks, any known discrepancies, and then neighborhood, city, county exceptions there regarding manufactured homes. Even in some of our rural areas that we've gone into, sometimes they may not want manufactured homes, but we have been able to go to zoning and planning with the officials in the county when they would meet as commissioners, and have been able to share with them our plan, our strategy, the homes that we're looking at, and have been able to get exceptions for some of the zoning out there. One thing I always say is you need to know your comps no matter where you are. And it's more challenging to find comps for manufactured homes. Within my peripheral, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, I see these days that manufactured homes are very close, if not exact, with stick built. Sometimes there's a 10% difference in them, but overall, manufactured homes have come a long way regarding comps. There are some appraisers I've talked to that do, they don't put any exceptions into the home when it's a manufactured versus a stick built. I'm not going to tell you that's your area. I'm not going to tell you my word is gold on that, but there has been a significant change in how the comps for manufactured homes are evaluated these days. When I'm asked, how do I find out what homes are going for as manufactured homes? I use the quick, easy, down and dirty Zillow. When you go into Zillow, you can put in your location. I go to sold, and then on the home type, go down and click manufactured homes and to see what's available in your area. I'm in a location in Georgia at the moment where the homes here for new manufactured homes are going from about 200 to 285, depending on where you are. We can buy the land for anywhere from 15 to about 40,000 here. So when I look at those numbers, that's not too bad whenever we're considering what we're doing here for manufactured homes. But this is one area that when I'm asked, how do you find comps? I say, just try Zillow and see what comes up in your area within a peripheral there.
So you're saying that they've changed the way that they appraise manufactured homes over the last, what, 5-10 years?
I am saying that many of the appraisers I have worked with are telling me there is not much of a difference at all in your numbers, depending on how you're looking at it.
Gotcha.
Your appraisal values. So I'm not speaking as an appraiser, I'm speaking from my experience, and luckily, I'm knocking on glass, not necessarily wood here. I've been fortunate that we get what we ask for when we put out a price on manufactured homes. So, there are some folks that will say a drywall versus what we call board and batten, which is your batten strips, and we'll look at what that is in just a minute, can make a little bit of difference, but I'm not finding that lately with what we have out there.
Oh.
So I've got a couple people asking here. In my market in Georgia, a manufactured home will sell for the same price as a similar size stick-built home. That's what I'm seeing as well, Dakota. I'm in Georgia this week doing some things here. What are lot prices in your area as opposed to the ones in Georgia? I'm gonna say it depends. In Atlanta, we're gonna find a different lot price. Where we're looking at Georgia right now, we're spending $32,000 for the lots. And then this location is expensive for what they call an impact fee. And then to connect the well and septic, we're spending about $10,000 for that. But it just depends on where you are, right? I am down in Ludowici, Georgia. We're about an hour outside of Savannah this week. So we're setting up modulars, which I'll give you a peek into in the end. Come on down and join us, Eric. I'm here with Allie this week. So, whenever we're working through a new site for manufactured homes, obviously survey is always within range of what we're trying to get. I've gotten to the point where my surveyors that I work with know I'm going to ask for additional information because I like having everything and everyone speaking from the same piece of paper. And at this time, I have found that my survey is the best way to do that. So I got to move some of the things out of my way here. I have my surveyor go ahead and put on our setbacks from front and back, where my driveway is up here at the top, where the proposed home is going to go, where my septic well is in this case, and where the concrete pad is in the back, and where my sewer is going to go. I didn't start out this way, but I have just learned it's easier to have the same piece of paper. We now have gotten to the point that if this is where my front door is and my back door is right here, I now have them defined 5 feet and 10 feet away from there to where the HVAC and the electrical and the access for sewer and or water goes. Because I have some guys that come in and, they think their trade is the only trade. And we have nowhere on each side of the back door to put the deck and or the stairs. In some counties, they require that your septic tank be a minimum of 5 feet from your stairs. Well, if my septic is right there and my door is right here, I don't have enough room to put that. So we've gotten specific enough as we've grown and done this more that we actually use our survey map very specifically. On this map, I'm choosing to share it on purpose. If you see 10.5, 10.5, a little bit more over here, but 10.5. The reason I have my surveyor place these specific numbers, and in this particular lot, our lovely neighbors who had been there for 3 years without a home kindly moved our survey markers. So when the guy went out to start my footers and foundation, he called me in a panic and said, Miss Pam, you don't have enough room. And I'm like, yes, we do. So now not only do I have my surveyor place it on the map, I have them go and stake in the ground the perimeter locations for the home so that when we go in to do footers and other things, there's no question we're all operating from the same piece of paper and the point of identified by our surveyor. So that's been one of my things I've learned over the years is the value of my surveyor and being very specific. They charge us more to do that, but for me, it's a peace of mind that every one of us is working from the same information there. So again, survey becomes really important, and I'm very specific with this. If you're putting a net new home out there, make sure that you have plenty of time for your lead, depending on where you're ordering it. Like for us, we're a manufactured home dealer, but we don't have a lot where homes sit. We order as needed. It's anywhere from 4 on up to 12 weeks for lead time. So just make sure you have plenty of time with the land and layout that you're looking to do. You always want to know your max size of the home. Survey is first, in my opinion, even before you start dealing with the land clearing. If I'm considering a land site, I will oftentimes send the land address to my surveyor in advance, and he'll glance at it to make sure there's no water issues, there's no drainage issues, there's nothing on site that he can find through historical data in the county that's going to be a prevention or a barrier for me, including topical. And then I'll have him clarify what he thinks my max size of home can be, so I can get that ordered as soon as possible. Your double wide, again, I think if I'm selling the home, I want at least a double wide because I'm going to get more bang for my buck money wise. And then whoever you choose as your manufacturer, your styles. This is a layout here of a Clayton Tribute, one of the ones that we've ordered several times. It's 4 bedrooms. It's a decent size. It's brand new. I order quite a bit from Clayton at this point because I really like the products they've delivered these days. I always make sure you get a permit. A funny story to me is I have an experienced investor in our area. He said, "Hey, Pam, I'd like to order a home." I'm like, "Great, let's do it." Put the order in, had a couple conversations with him. He works on double wides all the time. And about 4 weeks before we're ready to deliver, I'm like, "Hey, bud, just checking in. How's the permit coming?" He goes, permit? I got to have a permit." I'm like, "Uh-oh. We don't know as much as we thought we did on placing a new manufactured home." So in the end, I ended up contracting with him to set up his new manufactured home. So I now know that just because someone is experienced with mobile homes doesn't mean there's experience with setting up a new mobile home. So lesson for me, but you do have to have permits. You do have to go through zoning. Here's a couple of examples. And when I'm showing these, again, this is a new manufactured home on land that we're setting up for permanent as part of the property. And then we're going to actually retail sell these homes. So we got the land cleared. Having flat land is really important, just like it is with a home. If you have elevations, you're going to end up paying a lot more for your foundations. I've learned a ton in the past year about footers and foundations and the difference between one mason and another with what they do and they don't do. So what you see here is the box of where the home is going to go. And you put the concrete in while you're digging out the footers there, so that whenever they're coming in to put the foundation in after the home is on, you've got a base there to place it on. The footers is where you're going to actually place the actual blocks that go underneath the home. And then you do have to have those inspected. So once the guys come out to dig for the footers, there is an inspection before they actually pour the concrete there. So all of this has to be done prior to the home being delivered on site. And then we have the home delivered, and depending on how you're working with a dealer or who you're buying the home from, the home gets delivered by one crew and then set up by a completely different crew. In this case, you see them, they still have the home attached to the truck, and then they're moving the home. There's different devices. This is called a platypus, and it's kind of like a remote control piece of equipment that not only moves it, but also can lift it and hold it as they're putting the blocks underneath the home there. I'll get back to some of your questions in just a few minutes. We do move the hitches off. Oftentimes we'll place them underneath the home, although we're putting permanent foundation on these. In the future, if ever that home needed to be moved, it's just easier and kinder to make sure that you have the hitches underneath, somebody can manage that. You see, this is what we call the marriage line, and this is where the two components are put together. This plastic is there because once this is set up and we get the next level of inspection done, which is marriage wall and setup, then you will come back through and put the vinyl siding back on the home. We also remove the wheels and axles that were on the home, and we'll take care of those as well as a dealer. Let me pause and see what questions I have. If there's anything about actual pricing, I'll show you that in just a few minutes. So new manufactured home materials now compared to stick built. That's another reason why appraisers comps are close to stick built. Yes, they've come a long, long way in the manufactured home industry. When you order a home, you can actually upgrade insulation. You can upgrade your OSB wrap on the outside, which helps with your insulation. You can also upgrade the size of the studs used in the home. I was reading the other day that this family ended up setting up a 3,500 square foot home in their area. And they had an all-in like 280,000 into it because they ordered it as a manufactured home and set it up. If they had supported that as a stick-built home in that same location, they would have had over $450,000 in materials saved. So different areas, different regions, different requirements, okay? Again, I'm looking through to see what other questions we have. What are you paying on average for new double wides? And I'm just gonna say that's a wide open question. You can talk to me offline. It depends on what you're wanting, where you are, how far we are from the manufacturer plant, your shipping, your freight makes a big difference in there as well. What size, what level, just like in a home that you have stick built, you can go builder basic to luxury. Same thing exists within manufactured home. Do you have clean drywall or do you have gypsum board with batten strips? It's wide open in regards to what level of done is done. I've got a couple other questions here. What are the requirements to become a dealer? Talk to me on the side or look it up in your state. It's a nice way to say that. I hope everyone's learning something new today, Jim. Thank you. I have aha moments every day. This week, setting up modulars, I have aha moments all the time. Are we prepping multi-lot sites for sewer or are they on septic tanks? The answer is yes, depending on where we are and what we're doing. I have 13 acres in a little town called Sanford, North Carolina, that I was hoping to do a lot more than we're going to do. But in the end, when I compared bang for buck of dollars and what we had to do, we're dividing it into 6 lots with 6 septic tanks, and it's going to make the best profit out of my options. I thought we were going to put 40 homes there. Not so much, because we'd have to put a sewer pump to access the sewer line that's of course up the hill and over a couple roads, and that changes my games tremendously. I did a feasibility study for that one, which was a whole nother learning game there. Eric had a 1960 single wide to a 1997 double wide. When he was 8 years old, I lived in a double wide too there for a while, Eric. Walking through and thinking how magical it was. That's what I had too. When they put it all together, I was just sad that the Sega game system wasn't in like it was on the lot before my parents bought it. I love it. Lift stations are expensive. I'm learning about that, Dakota. Not something I want to step into at the moment. So this is the inside of the home that you just saw a few minutes ago when they were setting it up on the outside. You hear me talk about the marriage wall, and this is where the 2 pieces come together. And if you look closely, you can see exposed wood because it's 2 studs coming together and sitting side by side, and that's exposed in the home. So this is the kitchen, this is the living room, and you can see it's easiest. We've got to put a transition strip at the top on the ceiling. We've got to put gypsum board and trim on the sides, and then we've got to put a transition strip on the floor. Here's a better vision of what the 2 marriage walls look like together. It's not perfect, but we're going to cover that with the gypsum board that actually comes in the home. And then we had a piece of gypsum board get damaged, not a big deal. Depending on who makes the home and how they deliver it, sometimes they'll place little holders in here to help so it doesn't crack. It's just moving and stabilized as they're going in. And then I'm just going to show a couple things. You see the trim over on this section, but then it stops here because they're going to have one continual piece of trim to put up after you fix and set up the home there. This is called trim out when the home arrives. So again, you see trim, and then we'll go back and put trim on this section. This does not have a batten strip, so we'll come back and put batten strips in on there. Same home over here. And again, the home, when it travels down the road, travels with all your materials in there to set up the trim on site. And then you see again a different version of that marriage wall. You see the beginning of the trim going up. When I use the words batten strip, if you look really closely, you can see a thin, about a ½ an inch to an inch batten strip that goes inside the home. Manufactured homes and their historical ideas of what they are and are not, the batten strips are something that really define for a lot of people what a manufactured home is. You do have the ability to get fully drywalled homes, but you are going to pay for that these days as well. Then you're going to do what you do with any home: HVAC, electric, plumbing, whether it's septic or sewer, and then your well or water. So this home was set up within just 2 weeks, literally. Little piece, just a reminder to any of us as we're doing this, there was a well in the front and the electric guys forgot to connect to the well. So we were doing that last minute as we were getting ready to have the inspector come through for this home. But you see the power bay, the electric bay set up, the HVAC, the guys came out and did the plumbing. All of those are kind of plug and play. Oftentimes when you do a new manufactured home, it comes with the inside unit for the HVAC. You have to put the coils and they have to put the outside exterior air conditioner in. So not complicated. One of the reasons why I like setting up manufactured homes new is, for the most part, you're dealing with professional, mature adults who have a specific job. They come in, they do their job, they get paid after you have been approved with your inspection, and it's not back and forth. I jokingly say that sometimes with remodeling, you babysit, and I'm not a babysitter anymore. I let go of that a long time ago. I like working with mature, professional, responsible, licensed individuals that come in, they do their work, they go on. So the only thing that really is not licensed on this is your footer and your foundation guy. However, the fitters do have an inspection. So even though my footer masonry folks and concrete folks are not actually licensed, they have to be inspected to be able to achieve what we're trying to do. In this case, you see literally the home being set up on blocks, cinder blocks underneath. And then, oh, sorry, went backwards. And then the foundation that goes in. One of the things I say about foundations, it's a little bit of a different concept, is the house actually sits on the foundation. With a manufactured home, the home is sitting on blocks, and the foundation is more like a facade or a curtain, if you will. I learned quickly that just because you decide to put a masonry setup with stairs doesn't mean that you cannot get away with not using handrails. And in this case, once we got caught out on our handrails, because I forgot, the handrails were as expensive as it was for me to do the stairs and brick. So one thing not to forget there. There's multiple inspections. You have a footer inspection before you pour the concrete. After the setup crew is there, you have an inspection to make sure that the marriage wall and the setup, or sheath is what it's called. And then you have electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and then after that, there's a final inspection. So you have multiple points with the county and or city. This is the end product for this one. And again, you hear me talk about batten strips. That's a batten strip right here. That's where previously you saw some blocks on these walls. And then the trim, there's the transition strip. There's a transition strip at the top. Nice home. This one was a 2,200 square foot home that we sold for a nice little profit in an area that we work with. This was an acre lot. One thing that I will say is that if you've dealt with manufactured homes in the past and it has not been on permanent foundation, they are managed with a title, which is the same as a vehicle because it's through the DMV or Department of Motor Vehicles. When you order a new home from a manufacturing plant or through a dealer, you get something called an MCO, which is a manufacturer certification of origin. And that is turned in at the closing when you're selling the home to convert the home to real property. I get calls all the time, well, Pam, how do I know if it's real property or not? As in if I'm buying a used home and it has foundation or not. The answer is look on your taxes and see if it's showing a building on your real estate property. If it's not, then it's probably still personal property like a car. If you see a building, then more than likely it's been converted. The second answer is talk to the insurance company. So here's the example that I gave here. This one was really an easy one that we did. We walked away with $66,000 profit. My profit would have been a little bit more on this one, but I had another loan tied into this from a piece of property that we had bought as well, but not too bad for about 2 months. And I think I went on site 4 times, but otherwise this one was somewhat self-managed. I have some that are higher. I've got some that are lower, but not too bad overall. I've talked a little about being in Georgia. I know I'm close to the time. So this is something we're doing in Georgia with modular homes, a little bit of a different process. Similar in the sense that they can be made in the same factory or plant as a manufactured home. The difference is the way that they're built. And in a manufactured home, they're going to roll down the highway with wheels and axles. This particular modular home, this is what it would look like without the pine or the palm tree there, is what they call an off-frame modular. So today, first one is being lifted up off of this bed with a crane and placed onto the existing foundation. So modulars, you already have to have the foundation in place. It rolls down the road on the truck bed and is lifted up with the crane and placed. A manufactured, you put the blocks on after the home is on site. And then your foundation is more of a skirt or a curtain wall, if you will. And then you pull off the wheels and axles. So the modular that we're doing down in Georgia do not have wheels, do not have axles. That is completely flat underneath, but they lift it up and place it onto the truck bed as it rolls down. And then the foundation is existing. And in this case, the piers in the middle will split and hold both halves of the home there. It's two homes coming together. And then if you look here at the front, we already have the piers set up for the actual porch that is already built in on this one. So it's kind of exciting. I'll be posting some things about this very soon. All right, let me see what kind of questions we have in the chat. And then if anyone wants to open up and ask questions, you're welcome to as well. I'm passionate about what I do. I think a lot of my time in manufactured homes is honestly spent helping re-educate people on what a manufactured home is. They've come a long way compared to the aluminum boxes of yesterday, if you will. I have parts, I have individual lots with homes that I own, and obviously we're setting up new homes here. So, all right. Have you seen a better return on masonry skirting versus vinyl skirting? And the answer is, it depends. If I'm going to retail sell a home, I have to have in North Carolina a permanent foundation. In Georgia, I have different rules. So state determines your rules. In Georgia, you can have wood, you can have a version of vinyl skirting, you can have metal skirting around them. You do not have to have a permanent foundation as defined as brick and or cinder block as I do in North Carolina. So state dependent is the answer there. How does insurance differ between between mobile, modular, and regular homes? I am going to tell you that I don't know that answer completely. I will tell you that you are limited on who will insure some of your manufactured homes, depending on the age and how it's set up. Modular, we didn't have any problems at all getting insurance there, but it's like everything else. Once you find an insurance agent and or eventually a financial person that will support anything you're doing in manufacturing, you stick with that person and keep going, right? So I work with the same insurance providers and we just continuously roll with it and get them done. If you're buying used homes, you may get into replacement value versus actual value versus new homes. It's different because you can set it aligned with what your new home costs are in your area. Can you repeat the difference of modular and manufactured? Absolutely. So I can show you probably easier than I can tell you. So just bear with me a minute. And I'm going to go back and show you. Hold on. Right here. So if you look closely right here, you see a truck and you cannot really see wheels and axles there, but there are wheels and axles that are actually welded on to the steel of this home. And then once they get it set up, they remove the wheels and axles here. Okay. So again, a manufactured home has the wheels and axles attached to the steel beam underneath it and rolls down the highway. Made in the same plant, right? There are some differences in the wood that's used, meaning a 1x2 versus a 2x4 or a 2x2 versus a 2x4 between manufactured and modular. When you buy a modular, the modular is a box that does not have the wheels and axles attached to the modular. So in this case, they lift the home up, the box, move it onto the bed, and the bed that is used to transport has the wheels and axles, not the modular thing. Does that help with what I'm trying to say? So your manufacturer.
Does it have wood floor joists or is it still metal, like a steel base?
They all have to have some form of a steel base to work through it, right? It's just a matter of whether or not your wheels and axles are tied underneath, welded underneath it, or if they're lifting it up and moving it. So this particular, and the other piece is with the modular home, you have to have a crane because the crane lifts it up like a box and moves it on. First, and they also have to lift up the roof. Like if you see, this is the roof underneath here, and they'll lift that roof and then attach like a Lego, if you will, the roof ridge there. Versus a manufactured home is all together and does not require a crane. That crane can be very expensive. We're learning this. The number of days that crane is on site makes you or breaks you as well. But a manufactured versus a modular does not have wheels and axles and requires a crane. A manufacturer does have wheels and axles and does not require a crane. All right,
And I
Going
think there's a
back.
question about what's the cost difference between the manufactured, modular or stick build?
I'm gonna say again, it depends, because just like if I were to ask Tom what he pays for a house in Pensacola versus someone else, what they pay for a house in Pensacola, you're gonna have answers all over the place, right? For in your location makes a difference as well. I will tell you, I'm not comfortable saying a price because it is specific to your location is what I'm going to tell you, right? And then how are you getting the home? Are you going directly to the dealer? Are you going directly to the manufactured home plant? There's so many pieces of that, that kind of play into that. So I'm not really comfortable telling you the difference in the price.
And
per
tell me
square foot.
this, I have heard that you can buy a double wide for $85,000. Is that true?
It depends on what level of double wide you're looking for
Okay,
85,000.
the lower level, is it,
Yeah.
is that doable?
It is doable,
Okay.
not set up.
No, I
But it is
understand.
doable. So I'm working with somebody at the moment that we're pricing out at 140,000 for the double wide to be set up on site. Right, and that one's about a 1700, but it is location specific, level of finish
How
specific.
much does the setup typically, like a range cost on setup? So if you get a cheap double wide for 85, how much would the setup on that be?
I'm gonna say to average 30,000, and that
Okay.
includes your setup crew, your electrical, your HVAC, your plumbing.
That's a good deal.
And then it should include, within reason, your foundation, right? And I say 30,000 with a lot of caveats there. I have existing relationships with some of these folks. It does not include land clearing, sewer
course.
connections, water connection, septic and well if needed. It does not include any of that. Does not include
There's a
driveway.
lot to it.
There really is. There's quite a few moving parts there. It's not just set it, forget about it.
And Pam, can you sell in other states as a
I
dealer?
can, yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
that's good. Everyone's like, how can I get info? Well, you can, depending, no matter where you're at, you could buy one of these from Pam.
That's right. That's right. I'm happy to work with you no matter where you are. So I'm not evading questions on price per square foot. Please don't get me wrong there. But like, for instance, I have bought parks as low as 150,000 and I see parks for 150 million, right? So asking that question is really challenging because it depends on where you are, how far you are away from things, what level you're getting, etc. How does the price per square foot compare? I mean, modulars are definitely more expensive, no doubt there. Which is more durable, in my opinion, Tanya, both. I think that the typical concept of most people is modulars are a little bit more secure because they are made with generally larger studs. But again, you can upgrade a manufactured home to be any of those pieces that you want there.
Pam, it's really cool because you could also wholesale a mobile home
That's correct.
in a park or on land. You could
That's
do a
correct.
flip with it. You could keep it as a rental. There are people that are doing midterm rentals with them.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different exit strategies out there.
That's right. And compared to some entry points for what your homes are, I think it's a better deal. Robert H is asking, can you go to a manufacturer without being a dealer? And the answer is no, not in most states. I think I have answered all the questions.
You've done great, Pam. Thank you.
Jim, Tom, any others you have there?
Well, I would just want to ask everyone that's on, we've had around 50 or 60 people on. What were some of the things you picked up today? If you could share those in the chat. But Pam, You did an extraordinary job. I learned things.
Thank you.
I haven't bought a
honestly-
mobile home in many, many years, but I would love to if I could find the right land and things that had to go with it.
I think that there is so many opportunities in manufactured homes. The one that I showed you earlier, that we had a little bit of work to do to land, we had that one sold within 2 months, right? And that means buying my home, buying the land, buying the home, setting it up, doing everything that we needed, 2 months, in and out. We could have done it less than that, but it happened we were on Christmas time, and people take off during that time and the holidays, and so I thought that was really good that we were able to do that quick and easy at that time frame.
Yeah, Pam, I wanted to add, so I have several properties that I have excess acreage, and I've always wondered, what am I going to do with that excess acreage? And just watching this presentation, I have some ideas, maybe bringing mobiles or modulars in, and just knowing that I will get a return on that. Because in my head, I'm thinking it's going to be far more expensive than what you just laid out. So you have crushed a crippling fear of mine. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, maybe we can work together and we can help you not only crush it, but become a reality to see it happen yourself. So,
There we go.
I have a question. Do you typically sell your wrap seller financing notes sold, or do you like to hold them? And the answer, Felipe, is it depends. If you're interested in talking to me about wrapping and lending, I'd love to have that conversation with you or anyone else on this call. You know, I have some. When I work with lenders, I have to do education because a lot of them are still scared of manufactured homes. And the reality is, we still own the land, we still own the property, right? If we wrap it, we sell it, it's still all conducive. I'm working on selling a note right now, which was I think that one was 4 acres and a huge manufactured home on permanent foundation there. And when they looked at it, they're like, this is a beautiful note. I'm like, yes, it is. So we're working on finalizing the sale of that particular note. So it just depends. Each property tells me a different story, just like it would if it was a stick-built home. Somebody asked, it sounds, I heard that making repairs are very different from your regular home. What to watch out for? The answer is yes and no. We buy most of our stuff at Lowe's, to be honest, if we're making repairs. I have a different presentation that I've done 2-day courses on manufactured homes and what's different and such. Your older homes, you have plastic sinks, plastic tubs. You can replace any of that with a regular tub, a regular sink, right? It's the difference in your price point. A lot of your fixtures in the older homes, the light fixtures are plastic, right? So they were less expensively made back in the day, but you can replace them with the same or similar. The 2 areas I say that you have to, or 3 areas you have to be aware of is, one, your door sizes. The home that I showed you a little while ago that we made a $35,000 profit on, which was not fantastic, but it was an okay. We had 5 different door sizes in that house. And we ended up going back 3 times to buy different doors because we didn't think that we had 5 different door sizes in the house, right? Sometimes your tubs or your shower surrounds can be odd shaped and odd sizes. Little hint for some folks that do remodeling. If you ever have a home that you're remodeling and you're trying to fit a bathroom somewhere, consider going to a manufactured home supply store because they have fiberglass showers in tubs and they actually have unique sizes sometimes. So we've done the opposite a few times where we had a house, we had a tight space, we were trying to get away economically with putting a tub and or a shower surround. And we went to the manufactured home store and found what we were looking for versus if we went to a Lowe's, a Home Depot, big box or plumbing store, we were going to have to custom order and it was going to be way too expensive. So don't forget, you can also get some things on the flip side there. So the other thing that sometimes you have to be aware of is your door locks. If you have older homes are smaller than your typical ones. Obviously you can retrofit if needed, but those are the 3 things that I would say are the biggest challenges is your tub potentials, your doors, make sure you measure, and then sometimes your locks. Otherwise, everything can be managed within reason. So, trying to make sure we cover all.
I think we got them all, Pam. You were awesome.
Yeah, good job, Pam.
Yeah, I obviously love what I do and would love to continue sharing and working with anyone here on the call. So.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like new construction. It's just the house is built in a factory. I mean, really, you get a little bit of extra time bump on that, and you don't have to as a general contractor or as an investor, you don't have to manage that whole part. So you got to manage a couple different parts than you normally would in a rehab. And then it's a lot like new construction. You have to do everything that you talked about with the setbacks, with sewer, with electric. But the house is just kind of built, somewhere else. So you still got to have HVAC, you still got to have all that stuff that you would have in a
Right.
normal house.
That's right.
But
One of the things I would give as a tip, if you were going in and remodeling, the older homes have crumbly OSB or the MDF boards underneath it, and it turns into sawdust. And if you're trying to get that up, they glued it in addition to nailed it and stapled it. So you do have to spend a little bit more time getting it off of your joist if you're going down there, but it's worth it to do it. So replace it with new subflooring if you ever have to do that.
and are you mostly dealing with just new stuff right now, Pam?
I deal with whatever makes sense, Tom. Say that the deal comes to me and we make a decision, right? So I really like doing new manufactured home setups. I have established my dealer license purposefully, working with some JVs. We're actually looking up at even setting up a dealership at some point. We're in negotiation with someone at the moment who has an older location. So yeah, I will say this is my last piece, that for a long time, I would say I do mobile homes and kind of do like this, because in my area of Raleigh, I say that we live in a bubble in a lot of our areas. You look to the right and you look to the left, and most people make 6+ figures, right? You see Teslas, you see luxury cars, you see Beamers, Lexus, etc. But that's not the way everybody lives. And when we're in an area like Raleigh, Durham, where our average home is around 400,000 minimum now, who services that? Who do you go to a restaurant and talk to that's taking your order, or that is dealing with you when you go to a hotel, right? Not everybody can manage or even think about a $400,000 plus home anymore. So you go to your areas 30 minutes, an hour, even an hour and a half and 2 hours. That's the real world, right? So for a while, I found myself seeing a little bit of, I don't talk about what I do, because I would see the glaze come over people's eyes. And in the past, I don't know, I'd say 15, 16 months, I've lived into it. I do manufactured homes. I'm proud that I do manufactured homes. I think that it is a realistic way of life for many, many, many people. Oftentimes when I'm in a room, I'll ask who in this room has either lived in or bought manufactured homes. And the number of people that say they lived in a home, Eric said it, I say it, right? It's not, an unfathomable way of being. In the country where I grew up, people would buy an older single wide, buy their land, set it up, and then after the land was paid for, then they would build a new home, right? So once I've embraced the manufactured home world, I see that my gifts are coming back to me continuously in ways that I forgot for a while, because I sort of did this when I would talk about them. So I think manufactured homes are great. I love working with other people to educate, support, and teach on how we can move forward with those. So
Thank you.
there's other questions coming up here let me grab these last ones if we still have a few minutes. Somebody said, what's the oldest manufactured home you would buy? My answer is, if it's on land, I don't care, right? An example, I bought a manufactured home in California. It was a 60s model. It was on a rented lot. I didn't care. I was 3 miles from the beach when I lived there as a consultant back in the day. And somebody would come through, remodel it, put granite everywhere. The home age is not important, because you can make it whatever you want it to, as long as I don't have to move it. If I have to move it, there is a date. For a flip, we try to stay 1990. Yep, that's a smart way to go, Dakota. That makes sense. There were a lot of changes for HUD code. The manufactured homes depreciate in value over time. I'm going to say that depends, right? In general, you will hear people say depreciate, depreciate, depreciate. So if I'm buying, I make sure to clarify that, yes, they do depreciate. But if I buy a home on land for $18,000, and I'm going to make anywhere from $800 to $2,000 on it for the rest of my life, do I think it's a depreciating asset? Heck no. I mean, in those numbers, the home is completely paid for within 2 years, and then it's complete cash flow. So I don't believe in the concept of depreciation like that, the way other people do, but I look at cash on cash return and my infinite investment there. We had a family member who had an abandoned mobile home because the park wouldn't let it go. Not sure how that can happen. To abandon his mobile home because the park wouldn't let it go. That sometimes has an issue with back lot rent that wasn't paid. In North Carolina, there is a process through the DMV. There are actually field officers who deal with manufactured homes where you can take the title to a home that was abandoned. But it's quite a bit of investigative pieces that have to go into that. Usually it's unpaid taxes, unpaid lot rent. And as a manufactured home park owner, I can go through a process through the state and then the county to obtain a new title for that abandoned home. So it just depends on the scenario there. I think that's Sabine that's asking that. So. All right.
Awesome. Well,
Tom,
awesome.
Jim, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Great
as
job,
always.
Pam.
Awesome. Good job, Pam. Just want to
Thank
remind everybody about the next call, Jim. I know, I'm not sure if you want to close us out here, but
Yeah,
next call is October 22nd, 10 a.m. Central. Invite your friends. We're going to try to do a better job with our leaders here, sending them out to our groups and getting those links out to everybody. But thank you, everybody, for being on. Thank you, Pam. That was a great job. I learned a lot myself. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. All right. Have a good Tuesday.
yeah. All right,
Thanks.
Tom, close us out. I'll see you next week, Tom.
I will see a lot of you guys next week. I'll be in Richmond. So see Eric. I'll see a couple of you guys, Jim. So awesome. Any closing words, Jim?
No, just thank you guys. It's awesome. You know, we've got quite a few different deal maker leaders on right now, Felipe and Eric and others, Pam and Raleigh, and I appreciate you guys jumping on today. Pam, you're a giver, and we're all a whole lot smarter today because of you. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you. That's reflected back to you as well, Jim and Tom. So thank you both. Bye.
All right.
See you guys
All
in a
right, guys.
month.
See you guys next month. Have a good day.